I do have a number of questions. The first is, how is this proposal consistent with the comprehensive plan's urban design requirements, which include, I think it's B 1.4 in the urban design element, visually reinforce the preeminence of the Capitol building, White House, and other nationally significant resources by protecting the visual frame around them. And B 5.10, visually reinforce the special importance of the White House and its grounds by protecting the existing spatial relationship of the White House and the mass and scale of adjacent buildings. So my question pertains to how this proposal is consistent with those elements of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you for those questions, Mr. Mendelson. We are being very, very careful, first of all, to maintain, I think, a fairly sufficient distance from the central pavilion of the White House. And be developed in a matching way on both sides of the central pavilion of the White House. I think we will actually be in concurrence with the paragraph that you just cited.
All right, that probably will come up again at future presentations. Can the size, footprint, or location of the ballroom, on the site be changed at this point?
I mean, certainly anything is possible. It all depends on schedule and money. But this particular location has been studied pretty carefully by the previous architect as well as myself. And it's been determined that this is the best location in terms of getting access to it from the East Room of the White House.
But part of my question was the size or footprint. So has construction work on the ballroom foundation already begun?
There's been excavation work, there's some foundation work, but that's really not the limiting issue in terms of whether things can be changed or not.
Okay. So if as this gets further refined, the footprint could conceivably be reduced a little bit. The work on the foundation so far is not that significant.
Well, as I said, the footprint has been studied fairly extensively already, and many different massing options were studied before we even came on board. So at this point, we've continued working with that, with the product of all those studies, and we are primarily refining the scheme.
So I appreciate that the cornice line will not be higher than with the historic structure, but is it possible that the height of the ballroom, which of course determines the cornice line, that could be reduced somewhat? Because it still seems to me that it's overwhelming the existing building.
It's interesting. I mean, it is the same height. I think you're familiar with the addition that we built to the Wilson building that you're in.
Yes.
I bring it up because this question of size and relationship of an addition to an historic building comes up with almost every project I've ever worked on over the last 40 years. And we're essentially doing the same thing here we did at the Wilson building. We're building an addition, although at the Wilson building it really contrasts. It's a very modern addition. It contrasts very strongly to the neoclassical building. But even there, we matched the height. We did match the height of the existing building. I think it works quite well, and we've done that on many, many other structures. We're just finishing up an addition to the Cannon building where we increased the height by 1 story. That was reviewed pretty extensively. And you could look at it. I mean, I think that too works really well, with the original historic structure, despite the additional height.
But my sense of it is that there are 2 levels here. One is, I'm going to say, the lower level, and then there's the ballroom level. And I can't remember what the height is. What is the height for the ballroom level?
Well, if you measure it off the front driveway, where the portico is of the White House, we're approximately 51 feet above that elevation. But then
that's roughly the level of the ballroom?
I'm sorry, that's That's the roof of the ballroom. That's the height. That's the height of the balustrade around our ballroom structure. I'm sorry. Is that what you were asking?
No, I think I'm not asking it well. The ballroom is going to be like a 20-foot ceiling, a 40-foot ceiling?
It's about 38 to 40, yes.
And could that be reduced?
It's possible, not impossible.
I had one other question, which I think is probably for Mr. Fisher, not you, and that is, why didn't the project come to us as a whole instead of after the demolition?
Thank you for that question. We've begun work on this project. There are two phases to this project. I think that you've alluded to it with Shalom here. There are some things regarding this project that are, frankly, of top secret nature that we are currently working on. That does not preclude us from changing the above-grade structure. But that work needed to be considered when doing this project, which was not part of the NCPC process.
And let me note, just for the record, if it's okay with you, Commissioner, it's long been the view of NCPC's counsel's office that the National Capital Planning Act does not give us authority to review demolition or site preparation work. So while many projects do come before us at that stage, that's not a requirement of the National Capital Planning Act, and review of demolition is not something that we have the authority to do as a commission.
I appreciate that, and I've actually read that legal opinion, and I'm not arguing with it. It's just that I don't know the last time that a project has been presented before NCPC or Zoning Commission or any of the planning agencies where it wasn't presented as a whole. This is what we're going to do, and we will proceed with the demolition as we move forward, as opposed to here where the demolition occurred first.
Well,
I don't have any other...
the Air and Space Museum addition is one example of that, where they proceeded with demolition of the old addition, I believe, prior to presenting plans for the new addition to this commission. I think that's the nearest historical analogy. I could be wrong.
I just want to conclude by, I have a lot of respect for Shalom Baranes. He's done a lot of great projects in the city over the decades, and I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do any other commissioners have questions for the presentation team?
I have two questions.
Yes, Commissioner Dixon.
One, you kept mentioning stairways.
I guess that's going to be
Also, I'm assuming. You mentioned stairways on the building.
Yeah,
They were, or they going to be handicapped.
accessible, obviously.
the primary handicap access into the ballroom will be through the front door of the White House.
So the other entrances will not accommodate.
The other stairways are there for egress purposes, for fire code purposes, and they are stairways, so a wheelchair would have to really go in the other
But
direction.
I think that may be a concern, I would think. I mean, we want handicapped people to be able to egress too.
Oh, absolutely. No, believe me, we are looking very closely at all of that, all of the code.
Secondly, there hasn't been any discussion of the new security process that we used to go through, or we have gone through with the labyrinth of different corridors to get cleared to get into the White House. How is that going to be addressed in this process?
We'll really let you in any time, but
No, I've been back for a while.
Thank you for the question, sir. We are currently looking at a new visitors entry facility that would be part of this project. Again, as we look at this, it's not just the East Wing modernization. It's not the ballroom. We are looking at a totality experience for the White House complex. As I mentioned earlier, historically, when you come to the White House, you go through double wide trailers, tents, out in the cold. We don't think that that's befitting of what the White House should be or could be, quite frankly. So those plans are under review. We're trying to put them together, make sure that we've got our I's dotted and our T's crossed before we bring them before this commission, so that you guys can hopefully see and enjoy what we've produced.
I think that it's a sensitive area to even make it public how this process may work. But one of the detractors from the historical structures was the complicated clearance process and then the hodgepodge, if you will. So I'm assuming you how that will be handled in the future.
Yes, sir.
So we can look at that good. And I do hope we do something with the handicapped issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other commissioners have questions for the project team? Yes, Commissioner.
Question, a clarification from something that was presented. There was talk of adding potentially an additional level on the west wing side of the building. Is that to the west wing structure itself, or just to the on top of the walkway over? What's
It would be just to the colonnade.
Any other questions before we proceed to deliberations? Hearing none, I'd like to thank, as always, our staff and the presentation team here. Vice Chairman Levenbach, would you like to kick things off?
I think what strikes me about it is and some people here, some of the commissioners have participated in White House events more than I have, but I'm struck at how much this expands the utility of the compound. I think about the Hanukkah party I just went to. You start at the north end of Lafayette Park, then you walk through one set of trailers, and you walk through another set of trailers, and there's a code check, and then when you get inside, it's pretty crowded, and there aren't that many people there, and this is going to just open up access to people at a much higher level, and I think that it's going to be enjoyed for generations to come. So I'm really excited to see how this project develops.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Levenbach. Commissioner Blair.
I would just say I think that it looks like it's going to be very beautiful, but the utility, I think for those of us that spend a lot of time there, is fairly obvious. I think Winston Churchill said to the House of Commons when they were going to rebuild it that we shape our buildings and then they shape us thereafter. The White House is a special place, but people come there to gather and to work. I would tell you that we've seen times where simply doing something like getting the Congress together to have a meal and break bread is not something that the current structure of the White House really accommodates in any way with the President of the United States. That's a problem. When foreign dignitaries visit, the President of the United States of any party invited all over the world and goes and gets to see the best of whatever the country has to offer. And I think the President's view would be that he thinks the American people deserve that same opportunity to have grand gatherings for visitors to our country and show them what America has to offer. So I think it has obvious utility. I think it's very considered in its design, and I look forward to seeing the progress of the project and appreciate your presentation and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Administrator Forrest.
Thanks very much, Chairman. James read from my notes, so I'm right with him on everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Forrest. Commissioner Dixon.
I appreciate the presentation and look forward as this moves forward to more deliberation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mendelson.
Yes. Sorry, I was muted. I am. Let me say that I think that the elevation we saw from Pennsylvania Avenue was not as disturbing to me as the elevation from the ellipse. And as I said in my questions, I'm concerned about this addition overwhelming the original historic building. I appreciate that the architect Shalom Baranes has really good taste with regard to dealing with historic structures, but I do think that it sounds to me like the height could be lowered without jeopardizing the footprint. I don't think that the footprint, that is 89,000 square feet, should be the goal in and of itself. So maybe it can be and needs to be shrunk a little bit more. Again, looking at the elevations from the south, it's just so imbalanced. The other observation I have is that it is disturbing to me that we are looking at an addition to this historic structure, but we're looking at what appears to be an overall plan in a very segmented approach. So there are going to be some changes with the visitor center, there are going to be some changes with Lafayette Park, there are going to be some changes with the West Wing, but rather than looking at this as a whole, we're going to be looking at it piecemeal, and that's concerning as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Henderson?
I would just suggest for those of us who don't work in that complex every day that it would probably be worthwhile and beneficial for our consideration to take some opportunities to go and see the site and see the facilities as they are between now and future considerations.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McGowan.
I don't have any additional comments or questions, but thank you all so much for the presentation. It was very informative.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kozart.
Yes, thanks for the staff for their work on this and for the presentation. And I look forward to when it comes specifically this year.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schaefer.
So again, my thank you as well. This is it's exciting. Great job overall with the architectural features, and in looking forward to see how this progresses. As I echo the same comments as come before me as well, because I think this is a great opportunity for us to continue to expand upon the importance of our entire nation. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stidham.
Thank you, and thank you for the overview. It is really helpful to get a sense of the project. And I should lead with that Secretary Burgum, who I sit as a delegated position here, and the Department of Interior supports the East Wing modernization without reservation. We appreciate the designs that we're showing here today, and we look forward to seeing more detail. Especially when it comes to the landscaping and understanding how the temporary facilities will be, how the uses that currently happen in those temporary facilities are taking shape in the new facility, to really understand how that replacement is taking place, as well as understanding clearly, it's important, those views, that anyone who's coming to visit who does not have the opportunity to be inside the fence, to be able to understand and to view the White House. And so understanding those views will be really helpful when you come back, as well as the design choices you make and the materiality. So we look forward to much more detail and appreciate the overview.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Argo.
I'd like to I'd love to associate myself with my next door neighbor's comments and seeing how this progresses. I have some concern about size and scale, and in a number of ways, but we'll see. We can talk more about that as I said, as the design and the work on this progresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Speaking for myself, just a few things that I'd say. First of all, Commissioner, if you want to come over for lunch, you're welcome anytime. Happy to show you around. More seriously, though, I think every project that comes is ultimately determined in large part, or is shaped in large part by its function. And I think it's worth emphasizing a point that Commissioner Blair made, which is the vital nature of the function that I believe this project is intended to advance. It's been a distinct honor for me to get to, frankly, travel around the world with the President and visit foreign countries and be hosted by the leaders of foreign countries. And I think it's notable that when the President of the United States of America flies to the United Kingdom, he's hosted at Windsor Castle. And when next year the King of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland comes to the United States, more likely than not, he will be hosted in a tent on the South Lawn with porta potties. That, to me, is not a good look for the United States of America. And I think that when you think about the long history of planning for a state ballroom on White House grounds, if you think about the number of times this project has been suggested historically, it speaks to that programmatic need. This isn't a new idea. I've been interested to see that even in the press reports that have been, or the press articles that have been very, I'd say, agitated about the way that this project has progressed, there has been a recognition by previous occupants of the White House from both parties, people who have worked in the White House from both parties, that there is a real programmatic need for a building like this. So I think what we're really talking about then is a lot of the issues that Shalom in particular was addressing in his presentation, which is given the programmatic need, given the size that programmatic need necessarily requires for this project, how do we ensure that this project accords with what we as a commission care about? How do we ensure that the view sheds, that the way that the public will experience this building, won't detract from the way that the public experiences what I believe is one of the really 2 or 3 most important buildings in Washington, D.C. and in the region that we have jurisdiction over, which is the White House. I'd be interested to see more detailed elevations, particularly from the south, in light of Commissioner Mendelson's comments, what this would look like with the tree line, because I think that the elevation that we see there, just based on my knowledge of what the property looks like, that's very stark, and I don't think really represents how the public would experience this building. I think it's important that it's framed between the White House and the Treasury building, which is a building of significant massing. And I'd be interested to see an elevation that extends essentially further to the left or further to the east to encompass sort of the full viewing experience from Pennsylvania Avenue. And as many commissioners have said, I just look forward to seeing more details in the weeks and months ahead. And I'd like to thank, as always, our staff for the collaboration, the work they've already put in on this issue. I think they can be a real resource to the project team, particularly as you start thinking about the visitor experience, visitor entrance, other aspects of the broader modernization of the White House complex, and particularly how the public interacts with it. But again, just speaking personally, I'm really excited to see how this project develops, and I'm excited to hopefully see more detailed planning materials in the weeks and months ahead. So thank you. Are there any other commissioners that have questions or comments before we adjourn for the day?
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update. Download the One India app